Shall we talk about the newest Raven? That is none other than Desmond King. Desmond is a fifth-round pick out of Iowa back in 2017. Began his career with the Chargers, where he spent 2017 through 2020. Then has hopped around ever since. Tennessee, Houston, Pittsburgh, again Houston the last couple years. And the Ravens have signed him. He is a cornerback, by the way. He is a veteran defensive back, a special teamer. And Desmond is joining the Ravens. Technically, he's on Baltimore's practice squad. And as Ken McCusick provided here, a couple notes on Desmond, who's now 29. He'll turn 30 next month. And Ken writes, he played well in 2023 with Houston when he allowed 5.9 yards per target at slot corner, but was flagged 6 times in 230 coverage snaps. He's going to turn 30, as I mentioned, on the 14th of December, under a month from now. Most of his career has been at slot corner, but he has played some safety. So a good backup for the Ravens, who, of course, are thin at safety because we know the reality at that position right now. The third highest cap hit member of this organization is no longer in their plans, at least as of right now. That's number 32, Marcus Williams. And Eddie Jackson didn't even make the damn trip to Pittsburgh. And those are 2 safeties. One they have a lot of money tied up in. One they have very little at all. And, of course, Eddie Jackson. Perhaps this tells you a little bit about what they have in Bo Braid, or maybe it's more along the lines of Eddie and Marcus not being in their plans, and Sanusi Kane, who we don't have a true verdict on, but he got banged up. He's been a mostly special team guy, late round pick back in April out of Purdue. He left Pittsburgh with a walking boot and on crutches, according to beat reporters who were there. So again, I'm not necessarily expecting Desmond. I would be surprised if he's elevated right away from the practice squad. But then again, he could be taking Sanusi Kane's spot. So we'll have to see. This guy with a ton of experience, again, most of which has been at slot corner. He'll turn 30 next month. And he now joins the Ravens in what has been a very eventful couple months in their defensive back room. It's a room that luckily will now move forward in terms of deep safety coverage with Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington as the starters. And I think that's a significant change. Well, obviously it's a significant change, but I think it could be a fix. I think it could be a significant fix. The bummer about it is I think it takes Kyle away from where he's best, sort of as your jack of all trades guy, your chess piece that you can use up at the line of scrimmage in different blitzing situations and using that big body, rangy type frame, the basketball player that he once was, affecting things up at the line of scrimmage, affecting quarterbacks' visions, knocking down passes, being elite in the run game. And I'm not saying he can't still be used in those ways. But what I am saying is this was not priority number one. This was not the most ideal case scenario to use Kyle back there, I would think, if you're Zach Orr and company. But they've basically been put in a situation where you're forced to do so. So moving forward, Ardarius Washington and Kyle Hamilton are your deep safeties. I think somebody that is deserving, and really 2 players that are deserving of more playing time. One is Tre'Davious White. The other is Nate Wiggins, who got a bump on Sunday in Pittsburgh. The rookie first rounder is quietly putting together a tremendous year. Of course, they selected him in the first round back in April out of Clemson. The 33rd team, courtesy of Next Gen Statistics, took a look at the corners with the best cover EPA when targeted. And look who took the care of the list here. Nate is on this list. Minus 21.6. Again, EPA is an advanced statistic. It measures how well a team performs compared to their expectation on a play-by-play basis, its efficiency, its performance. And right now, Nate Wiggins is locked down. He is fearless. He is sticky. He is quick as all hell. He continues to earn more playing time. And while it's been a small sample size for Tre'Davious, who came in and had a couple tough plays on George Pickens, I think number 25, you may see start to eat away at some of Brandon Stevens' snaps. Here's how Tre'Davious graded out according to PFF. Of 4 targets, his coverage grade was 83.3. He allowed 1 first down, forced 2 incompletions, and finished with a passer rating of 59.4. Passer rating allowed, that is. So look, I don't want to jump to conclusions here. This is the dude who was forced into action prematurely based on the research and what I've read up on during the 4 games that he played as a Ram this year. He's just 13 months removed from a torn Achilles, and he has a lot of NFL miles on his tires. And I do wonder how he might fare against sort of the shifty, gadget, quick guys. George Pickens is not that. George is a hell of a wide receiver. But I thought Tre'Davious really out-physicaled him at times. Of course, Pickens got his. We all know that. Particularly when Brandon Stevens had his assignment. Pickens finished with 8 receptions for 89 yards. That long of 37, which was a beautiful moon ball from Russell Wilson. In terms of coverage statistics, Brandon Stevens, he's been picked on this year. He has logged 516 coverage snaps. 69 times he's been targeted. The average target per coverage snap is 7.5. 47 of those 69 targets have wound up being receptions. 633 yards in total. 8 forced incompletions, 4 PBUs, no picks, 1 dropped pick from Brandon. He's allowed 3 touchdowns and an opposing passer rating of 111.6. It's been a tough year for Brandon. I think he's been picked on a lot, quite a bit of which has been deserving. Elsewhere, I think it's been a little bit over-exaggerated. But the point is, if Tre'Davious White starts to stack games here, I'm not saying they're going to bench Brandon. I think his playing time is in jeopardy. And Tre'Davious White's just the guy to make that happen. As for Marlon Humphrey, he's en route to a Pro Bowl season. Dare I say, All-Pro Marlo is back in the flesh. He owns PFF's number 1 coverage grade among corners right now with a minimum of 20% of the snaps. 54 targets of 384 coverage snaps, 32 receptions, 313 yards, 6 forced incompletions, 6 PBUs, 5 picks, which is tied for second league-wide among all defensive players. No dropped picks, 3 touchdowns, and an opposing passer rating of 55.6. As much as there has been issues on the back end from a pass defense standpoint, Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins have been good stories. Bright spots, if you will. And I think what you've noticed, and I see some of you chatting about this in the live as well, is that Marlon's demeanor is definitely different. Marlon understands that what they've put out on tape as a collective unit is unacceptable. He's the longest tenured defensive player in Baltimore. And I think he holds a certain level of responsibility and accountability for the way this team looks, for the way this team plays. And just got to hope that it's going to be a lead by example approach and become contagious the way that he's playing incredibly hard and impactful now for 11 weeks running. Sarah and I had a conversation earlier today during our lunch hour live stream about whether or not it's time to panic. And there's a number of reasons why I'm not pressing the panic button. One, I do think this personnel change with Kyle and Ardarius will pay dividends. Two, I just don't see Eddie and or Marcus being a part of this equation down the stretch. Three, I think you have something, even if it is a rotational guy, with the veteran experience that Tre'Davious White gives you. And maybe, just maybe, he can be rejuvenated enough to be an impact player for you in certain situations down the stretch. Up front, you've got Odafe Owe playing some damn good football right now. I know I've been tough on him, and I'll continue to eat crow. And I know Torres is somewhere right now in Texas fist bumping every time I get a chance to eat some crow when it comes to 99. But Odafe had himself a game. Finished with 2.5 sacks. He was flying around. He's got a career high 7 sacks. And what I'm loving from the Brian Baldingers, I've been starting to watch all 22, by the way. Shout out all 22 film. A fantastic X's and O's breakdown of every single game. Player breakdowns, different situational breakdowns when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. He's a great listen. Coach Evans is as well. Got so many talented creators. Of course, Cole and my guy Spenny. You can go on and on and on. And I think what's really encouraging about what I'm seeing up front is not only did they go win the game or put the Ravens in an opportunity to win the game with maybe their best performance all year long. You're doing it without Big Mike Pierce, who's a run stuffer specialist. You're doing it without really Kyle Van Noy making splash plays for what feels like a month now after his hot start to the season. And now Odafe is starting to come on and set an edge and show you technique. He's showing you variety now. He's not just using his freak athleticism to get to the quarterback and bring pressure. No, he's got a full arsenal of what Chuck Smith, Ravens outside linebackers coach, has taught. And he's starting to use it and utilize his strengths. That's exciting to me. If Travis Jones can stay healthy, you know that interior push is going to go as he goes. And knocking on wood for Roquan Smith, because as soon as you got some capable safety coverage in there and Kyle and Ardarius, it's no coincidence that Roquan started to look like himself through 3 quarters until he left with that hamstring injury on Sunday in Pittsburgh. That'll be something to watch closely and monitor very, very closely. So I feel encouraged about what the Ravens defense put forth. And I think there's a darn good chance that they can start to shift things around here over the next month and a half. Aside from that, discipline-wise, the special teams penalties are pathetic. They are inexcusable. They are technique issues that they have to get cleaned up. There are 3 offensive linemen who rank among the top 10 most penalized players in the entire NFL, yet the irony is that the Ravens offense is still the number 1 DVOA team, which is a statistic and metrics that rank and study efficiency. This is an efficient group. This is the top-ranked offense in a number of different categories, even after what happened on Sunday in Pittsburgh and just putting up 16 total points. If you can clean up the discipline, the neutral zone infractions, the ineligible downfield penalties that negate drives, that stall out drives, that kill momentum, you're going to be so much better off. And you're not going to feel like you're constantly playing from 1st and 20, 2nd and 20. It's not a formula for success. Now, the Ravens offense is built to avenge that. But that's an area that they can absolutely clean up and easily clean up. And it starts with John Harbaugh, as he mentioned during his Monday press conference. The buck stops with him. You're damn right it does. Super chat from Mr. Johan Frizzle. Johan. And he writes, Tuck miss, Ravens lose about 70% of the time. Maybe. That's the last piece of the puzzle. Discipline, consistency on defense, and shoring up your special teams. Something that used to be a staple. Now it's becoming one of the Ravens' Achilles heels, and that feels very foreign.